let's get to this question. Why did I take my glasses off? Okay. Watch the previous video posted in response to a Missouri parent asking about observations. You're also in Missouri. Ask your superintendent about the policy or practice of only allowing parents to visit with school staff and administration accompanying the parent. They further expressed that privacy of other students is the concern. In the video, a court finding was mentioned that privacy is not an expectation for public schools. What case is that? Well, there's a myriad of cases. For example, you could New Jersey versus it's like TLO, Tinker versus Des Moines. There's a bunch, but with regards to pointing to any specific one, all of those wrap around and sort of discuss the latitude and limitations with regards to a student's expectation of privacy, and then also how much due process a child is entitled to, and the fact that according to the Supreme Court, children, meaning those under the age of 18, have diminished rights. Okay, so that's what most of those court cases are about. But also there's other cases, but remember that the key word here is public schools. Public schools. Public schools equal public places. All right. And so therefore you go expectation of privacy. There isn't an expectation of privacy in public places, and that includes public schools. All right. So let's finish that. They also specified that it was in regards to a child with an IEP. Shouldn't the policy be the same across the board? Well, yes. All children, regardless if they have an IEP or not an IEP, are protected under FERPA, okay, which is the Federal Education Records Protection Act. And so when it comes to that, you sit there and you go, well, what does FERPA mean? Let's narrow down what FERPA applies to and what it doesn't apply to. And it only applies to records, guys. It does not extend beyond records. So if there's instruction going on in the classroom, that's public instruction, okay? There's no expectation of privacy as to what is being instructed inside of a classroom because it has a myriad of children in it. There is no expectation of privacy. It is a public school. You are a stakeholder in that public school. They cannot sit there and say, well, we can't have you listen to instruction. We can't have you observe students because there's teaching going on. It doesn't matter. This isn't some kind of super secret location. It's a public school, not a private school. And even private schools that accept any kind of federal dollar are beholden to FERPA as well. But it only applies to the student records, any personally identifiable information that is on paper. Okay? Now, at the same time, it does not limit movement around school. It does not have anything to do with cameras outside of the fact. So let's say, for example, I request camera footage of a fight going on, and the school goes, oh, James, there's other children in the camera frame. And my thing is, I don't care. Those other children do not concern me. You don't have to redact. You don't have to sit there and skew their image, anything like that. Why? Because it's not a record that has anything to do with those other children. It is only a record as it applies to who is the focal point of the video, and that would be my client or whoever they're getting into a tussle with. That's when it becomes an education record, and you go, well, but the other child has a record or rights, that, let's say, was beating on your client. And at that point, I said, no, that's not correct either, because if my child is the victim, this is the perp loses their right to that anonymity. All right. And it becomes an education record to where my client has every right in the world to know, let's say, the punishment, and even to have that child's face exposed to the victim's family. All right. That's how FERPA works. It's not this complex situation to it's a basically a mechanism of a format for disclosure. All right, so all you got to do is get a variety of consents, and anybody can see anything, guys. And also, when it comes to your child, if you consent, then people can get access to your children's records. We give we send parent forms to get parental consent all the time, and the records come to my office. Okay, you see how easy it is? So it's a series of disclosure, more so than a lockbox to where nobody can have access to this stuff. The other thing is most school systems at the beginning of the year will send in their packet home for forms for the parent to send back. Most parents send them back. They don't bother to read them, including, let's say, the Student Code of Conduct handbook, to where, parents will sit there and sign this stuff. They don't read what's inside. And what's inside, there's going to be a tucked explanation in there saying that they record within the school, and therefore they need your consent to be able to, let's say, use some of the images as they deem fit for, let's say, local media or whatever. Okay, so they're getting your consent to record, and they're getting your consent to use some of those things at various points. But outside of that, guys, they cannot discuss your child. That's why if let's see you have a media report, you're sitting there watching some story about the news, and they said, well, we asked the school for their viewpoint, and their viewpoint is we can't discuss the student. That's true. It's a one-way street. The parent can discuss their own student. The school can't discuss that student because they don't have consent. They don't have that disclosure mechanism to be able to do that. Now, with regards to all of those other aspects that I talked about, that they can search your child, these other diminished rights. Remember, guys? So when it comes to all of this nonsense that they sit there and spew out, to sit there and scare parents, and it makes it sound so official. Oh, you can't observe. You can't walk the hallways. You can't see other children. It is nonsense. It's a public place. It's a public school. There is no expectation of privacy. FERPA only applies to records. It is a series of excuses to keep you out of the public school so that you can't see what's going on, so that you do not have and cannot hold them accountable, and so that you're not able to exercise your stakeholder role in your public school. They can't do that. Now, do they do it? Yeah, they do it all the time. But this is where, with these videos, I am infusing you with the confidence to be able to go back and make a very cognizant argument and a very logical argument as to why their denials is not appropriate. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee. It just means that if they need to finally just be honest and say, look, we don't want you in the school, instead of feeding you a line of crap, which is what they're doing. Okay, I hope that helps.